Chargers. Touchdown, UCLA.
With USC great and NFL stud, Frostee Rucker.
The Trojans back in front.
And LAFB founder Ryan Dyrud on the Believe Podcast Network and LAFBnetwork.com. This is your destination for Los Angeles football.
All right, Chargers fans, thanks for sticking around. Got the next part of the show to talk Chargers. Last 2 days of camp since FanFest. So excited to have one of the best in the business, one of the top beat writers in the game. He is also the co-host of the Compas on the Beat right here on the LA Football Network, writer for the Orange County Register and LA Daily News. Gilbert Manzano, I won't give you a what's up, bro, because I'm sure you're sick of it. So what's going on, my man? How you doing?
Thank you for that, Ryan. I'm kind of tired of Fernando right now, especially nowadays. I see him every single day at Chargers training camp, but it's good to be back on the show with you, LAFB podcast. You know, as people know, we've kind of joined forces on Compas on the Beat, LAFB. So it's about time we kind of do these collabs and kind of cross promote our different podcasts.
Yeah, man. I was literally, when I texted you today, I was like, I don't think you've been on since you guys like joined our network. Like, I think we've tried a few times, and obviously everyone's super busy. So I know I've been on your show in the beginning, but so good to have you on. So before we get into Chargers, just how's I mean, obviously I see all the time. I think Compas, you guys are killing it. I've been having great guests. Show's been super fun. You guys have added your own flavor and flair, but how has it been in the podcasting world? Now that you've been doing it for what, 4 or 5 months?
Yeah. Well, actually more, like 6 months. We started in March. It's very time consuming. It's a lot of learning, this podcast world. Me being old school sports writer from a newspaper, this is all new to me. Being comfortable in front of the mic and camera. Obviously, Fernando is really comfortable with that because he's a talker, as you know. He loves to talk. he loves the spotlight. For me, I'm kind of more behind the scenes. So getting this kind of, different, tool in the toolbox and being versatile. As we know, nowadays in training camp, the more you can do, the better to make the roster. So for podcasting, to add it to my resume, it's pretty cool. But you mentioned the guests, just talking to different people and getting to know people that way. And also talking football, but getting to know people that people whose work I respect or players I admire on the field, and kind of getting to know them from a different point of view. I feel like podcast is more laid back, getting to know some of these stories. It's kind of a different way to kind of distribute reporting in a different angle in a fun environment. So overall, I've been liking it. It's a different pace, but I'm glad that we started it in March because now we kind of know what to do for the regular season of football, and I feel like we're kind of picking up steam, and people know about us. And we were at Chargers training camp. People were always saying, "What's up, brother Fernando?" Calling us compas, making fun of me with my feud with Dan and Dago. So overall, I think people are liking it, and I like that people are going to see this different side of us.
Oh yeah, you guys have like a battle coming up, don't you? Some kind of battle royale, you and Dan and Dago or something?
Yeah, you know what? I guess it's kind of promotional week. The fight's 1 week away, so I'm on your show to promote it. Watch Compas on the Beat August 17th, the big showdown with Dan and Dago, who is our promo reader, who people kind of for some reason like. I don't know, he's a little too much for me.
It's a mixed bag,
I guess, but some people like that. It's kind of like in wrestling, people like kind of the bad guy, the villain, and he's kind of playing that role. But August 17th, I'll expose Dan and Dago in a fun way.
There you go.
We'll have fun with it, talk some football, and get into some arguments.
So last shameless plug for those that don't know. So what is this? I mean, you guys aren't like slapping on boxing gloves, are you? Like, what does this battle entail? Is it a battle of words? Is it? What's going to go down?
That's it. It's the battle of words. We're not going to go as crazy as people on this Undisputed or ESPN. Like, they kind of get carried away.
Yeah.
I don't know about Dan and Dago. I've never really actually, had a full-on conversation with him because his takes are crazy. They're wild. But we'll have Fernando in the middle, referee, kind of around the horn style, give him points to which argument he likes better. We're going to talk about, he's a big country music guy. I'm going to say why country is terrible, and I prefer reggaeton music, the Latin flavor. We're going to get into that. Alcohol, I like tequila. He likes whiskey. He's probably the biggest supporter of Tim Tebow. I am not really sure he's going to make the team, so we're going to argue about that. Just random topics, and I think people really like that about our show. We kind of get random. We're going to give you the football inside, but we give you different random topics, like Fernando talking about movies all the time. And it's funny because I'm like, Fernando, nobody cares about your movies. Let's talk football. But people like it. And I'm like, all right, fine. I was wrong there. Just give them more movie reviews. And that's what I like about our show. And I think having Dan and Dago adding that different touch or different kind of character really gives another element for our podcast.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm pumped. I'm excited to see it. So August, you said 12th or 17th?
17, Tuesday. We'll release it
August
Tuesday
17th.
morning.
Tuesday. My dates are all out. Yeah. August 17th. I'm excited. That'll be fun. So Fernando playing the Tony Reale, Jenny Taft role, I guess, if you will. We'll give Jenny Taft a shout out since she had that smackdown earlier today on Skip Bayless. I don't know if you saw that clip floating around yet. Yeah, in regards to like Mike McCarthy, we won't talk, we'll look it up, but touche to Jenny Taft for calling out Skip, which isn't hard to do nowadays. But yeah, so check that out. Compas on the Beat. We'll plug it again. You can find it anywhere on podcasts, anywhere on YouTube, Compas on the Beat, or LAFB Network, and anywhere you listen to podcasts. So with that being said, though, Gilbert, let's get into some Chargers talk here, since that's what you do best. Do a lot of other things well too, but I think that's what you do best, at least in terms of writing and whatnot. And I know Chargers fans certainly appreciate it. So FanFest, I talked about it, but let me just ask you. So we already talked about it, covered on the show, but what were your overall thoughts of FanFest? You don't have to get into really playing stuff, but just seeing fans in the field. I know you've been to SoFi many, many times. All last year, the reporters actually got to be there. But what was it like seeing some fans in the stands and just the environment there?
Yeah. So not too long ago, the Chargers released like their season tickets number, and they're pretty good numbers. I think they're at least over 45,000 season tickets in Los Angeles, which is not kind of crazy because it's a new stadium and people in LA, want to see football. But then the thing is like, okay, are Chargers fans buying these season tickets, or is it opposing teams, fan bases that want to sell the tickets on a secondary market or come watch their team in Los Angeles? As you know, Ryan, there was no football here for about 25 years in Los Angeles. Now there's two teams. That's why you started the LAFB network, because there's a lot of football here to cover. But a lot of fans, went elsewhere, like the Cowboys or 49ers or whatever, the Raiders. And so it's kind of a mixed bag for the Chargers here in Los Angeles. But I think Sunday at the scrimmage, you kind of got a preview of that fan base is growing. There was a lot of Chargers fans there. And you always hear the tired jokes, like there's no fans out there for the Chargers. And you hear over and over again. But I think Sunday was a preview of like, okay, they're making some headway here. They're getting a footing in Los Angeles. Obviously, Justin Herbert has a big deal or a big part in that. But having a brand new stadium, doing great on social media, and, obviously you got to win games. But I think they have good attraction here. Building that fan base. And Sunday was a great preview. And I know it's kind of bad for Michael Badgley, but when he got dropped down with the Boo Birds after missing field goals, that shows people care, and that shows there's a lot of people interested in this team, and they don't want it to be ruined by missed field goals like a year ago. You want Badger to kind of figure it out, but hearing that the boos, it's kind of like, okay, there is a fan base here. I don't know where these tired jokes are coming from, but who knows? It's gonna be a different story when there's actually an opposing team, like the Cowboys coming to town, the Raiders. If you kind of get that 50-50. It's kind of like, and I'll give you a wrestling analogy because Fernando loves it. It's kind of like with John Cena, people are like, let's go Cena sucks. So if you're at least 50-50, I think that's great for the Chargers because it happens in every NFL stadium. People want to see their team be in town, watch them in Las Vegas with the Raiders, watch them in Miami with the Dolphins, watch them in New York. So it happens everywhere. But if you're at least, competing with the opposing fans, that's big for the Chargers. But it's going to be sold out, I think, every game because it is the first year with fans at SoFi. Now, the thing is, like, are there going to be a lot of opposing fans, or will the Chargers, do their part when it comes to rooting?
Yeah, I love that you say that, Gilbert, because I think that's a lot of people think it needs to, in order to be showing success and growth, it needs to be majority Charger fans every single game this year. But I think 50-50 is a good goal because it is so normal. I mean, 2019, I talked about a lot. There was this is the Rams, obviously not the Chargers, but there was a Rams-Falcons game in Atlanta. And at that game in Atlanta, there was at least 50%, maybe more Rams fans than Falcons fans. But it was never brought up. No one talked about it. I've been to Bears and Broncos games in Chicago. The Bears have a great following. 50-50 Broncos fans there. I've been all over the country. It happens, other than maybe a select few teams. But it just gets so under a microscope here, especially with the Chargers, where they're doing a slow build. It wasn't going to happen overnight. Anyone that thought that doesn't know how these things work in this market. So it's good to see that they're getting some traction. We all know that, but it's good to see now nationally, maybe they're starting to get some traction. And then one thing I thought, and maybe, I don't know if you noticed this, but I was talking to Dan, who was there as well, Dan Wolkenstein. A lot of because everyone talks about how San Diego like hates the Chargers now. There's obviously a salty fan base there still. Like, we'll give them their credit. But there's a lot of San Diego fans that still like the Chargers and are going to travel up. And a lot of them came up to this practice game. And I remember Dan saying he was going back down the 5 to get to Carlsbad, and it took him hours from the traffic from people at the game from San Diego. That's good to see.
Yeah, no, definitely. Even on Saturdays for Chargers training camp, when they have the most fans, our good buddy Adrian Garcia Marquez, who's the voice of the Chargers in Spanish, he takes a microphone and he's always welcoming fans to the microphone. And he asked them, "Where are you from?" And a lot of them say San Diego. So yeah, they are following the team from San Diego here in Los Angeles, but it's pretty split though, and it's rough for San Diego. I get it. They lost their favorite football team, so it's a little awkward there. But there are still a lot of San Diego people who really support this team because I see kind of like this awkwardness where like a lot of them are Padres fans as well too. Like they like the Chargers, but they're Padres fans. Some like the Dodgers. So it's kind of like a rivalry. Like you're Chargers fans, but you hate different baseball teams. So it's a little awkward. But I think, like you said, it takes time to kind of build a fan base in a new city. And I'm not trying to give a lot of credit to the Chargers just yet because, again, I got to see it when fans are in the stands. But I think they're making progress, and that's what you wanted. The first goal is to sell season tickets, which they did. Now it's to make sure the right people are buying these season tickets, and we'll find that out more come the regular season. But so far, they got a break with Justin Herbert. He really is the face of the franchise. With Philip Rivers, people loved him, but he was San Diego's quarterback. And as you know, Ryan, in Los Angeles, it's all about something new, fresh, trendy, new stars. Los Angeles love that. And Justin Herbert is new. And he so far is living up to the hype and doing great. And that results in jersey sales and ticket sales.
Yeah, he's absolutely become the new face of this team, this organization, and it's fun seeing like the battle between him and Stafford for the face of LA in terms of quarterbacking, and he's lived up to it in every measure of the way. And even in his quieter, softer demeanor, he's still like a fun personality. Like, he's not boring. He's just not like loud and outspoken like Baker Mayfield, but he does have a personality, and we see it at training camp. I know you guys are usually busy interviewing, but since I'm usually there in the fans, like seeing him every practice, basically sign footballs in the very first practice. I think it may have been you that asked him about it afterwards, but going and actually like giving high fives when he wasn't allowed to. But I thought that was so good for the fan base at their face of their franchise. He said he didn't know about it. I'm saying, you know what? He's probably just like, screw it. I'll pay the fine. Like, I want to go give these guys credit for coming out.
No, definitely. You could tell Justin Herbert really is appreciative of the Chargers fans, and you could tell that he really missed them a year ago. And just imagine that rookie year he had with a bunch of Chargers fans around. Like, he missed that, and I think he's really eager now to meet Chargers fans. Just to put it out there, he's vaccinated. He feels secure with that, and he's okay with that. But come games now, you got to make sure you're a little more careful. It's kind of like when he's playing games and he's scrambling, he takes a big hit. He could take it, but he's a big body. But let's avoid that. And I think the Chargers are telling him, let's chill out with that. But he's at least throwing the footballs to the fans, throwing some shirts, and he's having fun. And you mentioned it, Ryan. I kind of miss him stuff because my back is turned to the whole fan interaction because I'm doing interviews. I just saw a video where Herbert was doing field goals for fans. I'm like, where was I for that to watch field goals? And I totally missed it. So it's bad timing, but you could tell Herbert's really finding his footing, and he's really comfortable, as a person, as a leader. And you can really tell that Herbert and Derwin James are the biggest leaders on this team right now.
100%, yeah. Which you love to see. You'd be like, no offense, Joe Lombardi, but I got to go see Herbert kick field goals. That's a little more entertaining right now.
I should have, right?
Yeah. So off day on Monday after FanFest, which was Sunday, and then back on training camp for Tuesday, and then now Wednesday. So this morning, you said pre-air, and by all indications that we saw, because there was really nothing going on Twitter from any beat writers. Pretty melodic day on Tuesday. So I guess we can touch more on Wednesday. Let's start with this. T. Billy was back in practice, back in pads. How was he looking? How was his health implications? Break it down a little bit for us about T. Billy and how he looked today.
Yeah, he looks fine, but he's not making the plays he was the first week of training camp. I think maybe he's trying to get back his footing and maybe not rush it out there too much. But he hasn't had the connections just yet I guess yesterday was kind of a slow day, so maybe it doesn't count. But today with the pads on, he didn't really have too many big plays. But I think that first week, he really showed a lot of people how much he's improved as a player. And, I'll write about this in the Orange County Register and maybe tomorrow. Sorry, tomorrow. I spoke to wide receivers coach Chris Beatty, and I asked him about Jalen Guyton and Tyron Johnson, who kind of broke out. Maybe not broke out, but they made the roster and made an impact, as wide receivers, as a speed threat, stretch the field. And Chris Beatty was like, it's okay to be one-dimensional just to get a spot on the roster. That's what Jalen and Tyron did. Now for this next year to possibly break out even more, you got to develop as a route runner, be more than just a specialist. And I think that's where Tyron Johnson kind of, really showed that as a route runner, the start of training camp. And he's like, okay, maybe this guy is the legit number 3 wide receivers. And he was kind of running away with the competition. But then he got banged up. I think it was a foot or ankle because he was making so many plays. He landed awkwardly one of the deep connections with Justin Herbert, and it was out for a week. But in that week out, rookie Josh Palmer kind of took advantage of those snaps and opportunities and emerged and made it a real competition again between Tyron and Josh Palmer. And even Jalen Guyton hasn't done as well as those two guys. But he's another one who was kind of a specialist a year ago. But he's got to improve with his hands and catching balls and route running. And that's what Chris Beatty told me. Like, okay, these guys got to show it that they could do more because it's competitive for this wide receiver 3 job. But that first week, Tyron T. Billy, as people know him, has become a fan favorite because he's making a lot of plays. But, he's now playing catch up. So it's going to make this competition even more intriguing.
Yeah, he's definitely become a fan favorite, which is, cool to see. Obviously, when you have the big plays that he had last year, but even just what he did in camp, and I want to say it was day 2 or 3 when he had that. It was probably a sack on Justin Herbert, but had that like 60-yard plus touchdown bomb, and just looked good. So, and I think Guyton had a drop in the FanFest scrimmage, if I'm not mistaken, at SoFi. So things you don't like to see, but take a shot if you've seen it before. Quickly, just keeping it with the wide receiver room. Deep room. I've been super impressed by a lot of these guys. And some guys, Joe Reed and KJ Hill, it's been a mixed bag with their reps, not necessarily looking bad, just not really seeing them in the action.
Yeah.
In your opinion, not necessarily reporting, but just maybe your personal opinion, any shot the Chargers keep 7, or do you think this is a 6-man room? Because 7's deep. Most teams don't do it. But with how deep this unit is, I don't see many guys making it to the practice squad. I feel like they'll be snatched up.
Yeah, it's going to be tough because you got to pick and choose where you want to get greedy at positions because running back is just as competitive. And do you want to keep 3 running backs or 4? Same thing, wide receivers. You go 6 or 7. I think last year it was 6. Like T. Billy didn't make the roster a year ago. We forget that he came up from the practice squad. So, there's an avenue there where you can stash guys, and hopefully they kind of emerge because injuries don't happen. And I don't want to jinx the Chargers. Maybe I shouldn't even talk about it. But so far they're healthy, and maybe that's a good problem to have. So that's why it's competitive. But you never know. Some guy's gonna go on the practice squad and you earn an opportunity that way. But right now, the feel I'm getting, if they do stick to 6 wide receivers, it's got to come down between KJ Hill and Joe Reed, the 2 guys from last year's draft. Like they're not really, standing out like T. Billy and Jalen Guyton. Or Guyton is kind of struggling too, but he proved himself a year ago that he gets open. If you could get open in the NFL with a big arm quarterback like Justin Herbert, and you want to stretch the field, Jalen Guyton has a spot on this team. He's got to work on the drop balls, and if he does that, he's okay. But Palmer, Guyton, and Tyron, I think, are okay. You still have Jason Moore, and even Austin Pro has kind of made some noise. So it's going to be tough there. And I think, if you release, Jason and Austin, you can always get them back. But there could be intrigue for Joe Reed or KJ Hill, and somebody wants them on their team. So you're going to have to really decide between those 2 guys for me. And maybe for Joe Reed could be the versatility that you could use him in jet sweeps and all these crazy motions, but he's not making the plays yet. He's not really figuring that out. And again, going back to my story that I'm going to have with Chris Beatty is like, do you follow the format for Tyron Johnson and Jalen Guyton with Joe Reed? How about you focus on one thing first, being a deep threat, because Joe Reed is also pretty explosive. So maybe make him that deep threat. And then after that, you could kind of, unleash the other kind of tools in his bag. So if they feel like Joe Reed has a potential, and they'll choose him. But KJ is so polished as a route runner, but he's not really making the plays like he did a year ago in training camp. So it's going to be really tough for those 2 guys, for the Chargers to kind of decide to keep 7.
Really tough. I'm excited to read that article, Gilbert, because that'll be fascinating hearing from the actual wide receiver coach and what he thought. So last thing on this group, I don't know if you've seen my tweets, listened to the show at all, but I've been huge on the Austin Prohl train. I call it the
Yeah,
Prohl,
no, I've seen it.
call it the Proler Express. I've been big on him, just his ability in the return game. And I know the first depth chart come out, and he wasn't the starter in the return game. Just my opinion. I think the first depth charts are basically a chalk. Like they're not really don't mean
They're
much.
not real.
So I know people read into it, fans do, but for the coaching staff, it's just something to get out there that they really don't necessarily think. So to me, I still think Prohl is the number one guy just from reps I've seen. He's always been the guy starting. So from your eyes, though, what have you seen from Prohl? Do you think he is a guy that has a legit shot to make this roster, or am I just blowing smoke on a quote unquote my guy that I hope does?
Well, that's the thing. Like, if you're a specialist in as a punt return, but you're not really bringing it as a wide receiver, it's hard to keep Austin Pro. Like, he was making a bunch of plays, with Justin Herbert on training camp. Then you want to keep him, but you might be right though, Ryan. I do like Austin Pro as a punt returner. He has a sure-handed. He's sure-handed. Has some, maybe not explosive speed, but he has some wiggle room and he kind of makes plays there. But he's reliable in punt. And a year ago, just being reliable was hard for the Chargers. We could get into the special teams overall, but they kind of have a good problem to have because they have so many candidates, and Darius Swinton is not really revealing anything. I asked him today, Darius, it's been 2 weeks now. Give me a feel for the returner job because there's like 20 guys competing. And he's like, not yet. We need preseason games. I'm like, all right, fine, Darius there. But it's gonna be tough for Austin Pro. He is kind of making a splash, and you never know. There's always a couple surprises in training camp. But if he's making those plays in in preseason games, starting with the Rams on Saturday, he might make it hard for them, and maybe he's become reliable in the return game or at least punt return. But I think for right now, it might be KJ Hill, leading that charge. But again, he has kind of the same problem. If you can't make it as a wide receiver, you can't just be on the roster as a specialist. So if Joe Reed's, he's more of a kick return actually, but like say maybe Tyron Johnson or Jalen Guyton take that punt returner job. They're doing it as a wide receiver. So perfect. Have one of those guys do it instead of, taking up a space for a specialist. So, if KJ could stand out in the preseason, I think that punt returner job is his, but he's got to do it as a wide receiver as well. But if he doesn't, then I think maybe the second guy in that running for at least punt return is it's the Austin Pro. Kick return, I think, is between Nazir Adderley and Joe Reed. But it's a lot of guys. I seen Justin Jackson taking reps there. So they're competing, and I still don't have kind of an idea for how that's going to shake out.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's going to have to be a guy, not necessarily a starter by any means, but a guy that can be a role either on offense or defense, and doesn't limit them if they need to use him if God forbid anyone gets injured or whatnot. And so we'll see who really breaks out in that. I feel like I've seen Prohl make some plays with the 2s and 3s, and he had a touchdown pass in 11 or in 7-on-7s from
That's
Justin
true.
Herbert a few days ago. Toe tapping on the pylon. So, but we've seen KJ Hill do a few. Haven't seen Joe Reed do much. So that's kind of the part where he needs to. And I had someone on, Gilbert, and this is getting long-winded, but it's okay.
No, you're good.
I had someone on that was like, well, maybe they're just hiding Joe Reed. They don't want to show too much to fans. I'm like, I get that if it's legit Percy Harvin, but you got to see what you have in Joe Reed because we don't know what you have in him yet. This is a brand new coaching staff. You don't hide a guy that you haven't seen play it down yet. So
that's what they said a year ago too with Joe Reed. Like, they're like, well, maybe they're hiding him, and it turned out like I actually now I remember, I don't think he had a single catch in the regular season. Looking at the stats, so I'll say this about Joe Reed. They are trying with him. I think it was yesterday. He had a few reps with Justin Herbert at quarterback. So maybe they're trying to give him a chance, but he just hasn't really stood out yet. But he is getting opportunity to kind of prove himself with Herbert on the field.
Yeah, good to see. So let's move over to defense, and we can talk more specifically about today. I thought the unit overall for camps I've been at, the defense has won the day, if you will, against the offense, at least in red zone drills and stuff like that. And then I thought at the open scrimmage at SoFi, the offense kind of took it to the defense a little bit and made some big plays. How the defense bounced back today? How was Mark Webb back after being banged up a little bit? Talk to me a little bit about the defense.
Yeah, no Mark Webb today. I think yesterday he tried to give it a go, and maybe he might have felt some kind of, maybe his hamstring wasn't ready, and he went back. Well, he went out of the team drill, so today he wasn't in practicing, so maybe he's not ready yet. You don't want to mess with those hamstrings. Like, get those things take time.
Yeah,
like you feel like you're okay, but then you get back on the field and you kind of feel a tweak. So he wasn't out there, but in terms of winning the day, I think that the defense got the best of Herbert and Chase Daniel and Easton Stick, because I think I counted 3 interceptions, one against each quarterback. I think I want to say the Herbert one was Michael Davis, Vato.
That's right.
2-minute drill, and it ended quickly. That 2-minute drill, they're like in the 20-yard backed up, and Michael Davis got I think there was pressure from Joey Bosa, so that defense working together. But then Herbert came back, and he went from his 20-yard line all the way. They didn't score. They got to the 2-yard line, I think, a 2 or 3, and they kind of got stuffed there on a Joshua Kelly, or run for a touchdown that wasn't counted. But they got a field goal. I think it was like a halftime 2-minute drill. So you want points, going into halftime. So Herbert came back there, but you're seeing it every single day, battling Staley's defense. I see Staley in the walkie-talkie, talking to Derwin James, and that's been pretty fun to kind of watch him go at it against Joe Lombardi and Justin Herbert. So, you kind of see these young quarterbacks and the beat writers really assess what's going on, and people are freaking out like Tua has interceptions, and Drew Lock is competing with Teddy Bridgewater. Where Herbert, you don't really have that because it's his job, and he was so great a year ago that it's okay that he has a couple of interceptions. I think I want to say he has up to 5 interceptions this training camp, maybe 6. But you kind of expect that. He also had one in the scrimmage. I think it is 6 interceptions because Derwin James made a play. Well, maybe it might not have counted. I forgot about that. But that shows you Herbert didn't count the interception because they're competing. Derwin's team and Justin Herbert's team, they're really competing, and that might be even a story in the future how these two defense and offense are really going at it, and that's why you're not seeing perfect practices. And I think Brandon Staley wants to see the mistakes because that means his defense is getting the best of Justin Herbert, but at the same time, you want Justin Herbert to be challenged because I think I asked Brandon Staley back in maybe June. I'm like, this guy broke every rookie record a year ago. How do you challenge a guy to kind of get better from that? And he's like, oh, there's plenty to challenge Justin Herbert. And you could tell Brandon Staley is such a competitor that he's thinking all night at his house, how can I get the best of Justin Herbert? And I bet you those guys are kind of going at it. So it's not clean for either side, but that's what you want to see if you're Brandon Staley, that these guys are really going at it.
Yeah, and I know this is the Jets, but Zach Wilson in his press conference today had a quote, was asked about interceptions he's had, and he actually, I thought it was really fascinating what he said. He said, this is the time to take chances and, try to see if I can fit the ball in places that might be kind of risky to do, or because it's practice. And then, go into a game, you see that situation, you say, okay, that didn't work against my defense. Let's check it down or something like that. So this is a lot of, maybe Justin Herbert just forcing throws to see if it works, feel it out. These are the time to make mistakes. Obviously, you don't want to mistake on every single throw, but 6 throws, those are the learning things. So I don't think it's the end of the world for that.
I was gonna say real quick, Ryan. There's a reason why every time Herbert gets, kind of not really touched, but it's a sack, he lets the ball rip because he wants to take out. It's like how like Aaron Rodgers kind of sees like a offside. He's gonna throw the ball just in case. Oh, yeah. You got nothing to lose in training camp. If you got touched already, the play's over, but might as well let it rip because the coverage is still going down, downfield and secondary. So take a chance. And Herbert's sometimes getting a touchdown at T-Billy, or he's getting picked off by Derwin James. So this is a time of year where you take a chance when you have a kind of sort of a free play. Totally.
So, all right, Gilbert, 2 more things for you, and then we'll get you out here. Appreciate you taking the time. Gilbert Manzano with the OC Register and Compas on the Beat podcast. Asante Samuel Jr., we have kind of seen him just mature before our eyes as camp started, getting more and more reps. Still my majority, I would say, with the 2s, but with Brandon Faison being banged up too with the 1s. What's been your overall thoughts on ASJ and what he's been able to do? And then how did he look in today's practice as well?
Yeah, it was kind of a slow start for Asante, which I kind of liked. And I asked him about it too. I think he liked it as well, that he had to earn his role on the team. Like he was playing behind Brandon Faison and Tavon Campbell. And you would think the 2nd round pick would be, with the starters, with Chris Harris Jr. and Michael Davis, whenever they play a nickel defense or dime, you have an extra cornerback. You would think he would be on there. But that first week, he was playing with the 2nd team, 3rd team. He wasn't getting those reps with Derwin James on the field. So he had to earn it that way, and he did because he was being versatile. He was playing inside, outside cornerback, and the more you could do, the better for Brandon Staley, who loved just mixing and matching because the safeties in his defense better play free safety and strong safety. Like Chris Harris Jr. is playing, safety and corner, so the more you could do, the better. And Asante proved that by being versatile, and he's a competitor. Like we've seen stories already where he wants to line up against Keenan Allen. And actually today, Asante had a nice pass break against Keenan Allen with Herbert throwing the ball. So he wants to face the best, and he wants to earn his spot. So I think at the scrimmage, though, he had a kind of bumpy ride there. He gave up some big plays, but cornerback might be the hardest position to kind of figure out for a rookie. He's going to have growing pains, but I think so far so good. What you ask from Asante to get better week by week, and for him to kind of get out those mistakes, and in the training camp preseason should be better for him come regular season. But I think he's going to come along. It might be a while for him, but he doesn't have to be the top guy because you have Michael Davis and Chris Harris Jr. and you have Derwin James, who's so versatile as well, who could play cover. So I think for Asante, it's going to take some time, but I think so far so good.
Yeah, no, well said. And, I've said many times in a Brandon Staley, Ronaldo Hill system, they expect a lot from your defensive backs. And so it's going to take time to really get into the system and learn. And then once you get into it, then that's when you get put in the best position to succeed, and why you see breakout performances from, the Darius Williams and the Troy Hills from the Rams. And so once he feels comfortable and doesn't have to think anymore, he just plays, then it's going to be, exciting to see how he's going to do. But overall, I think he's progressed very well in this short time. So let's end with this, Gilbert. And I hate ending with a negative, positive guy. But you mentioned at the top of the show, the kicking game.
Yeah.
This has plagued the Chargers for however long I can remember. Let me ask you this question, and then you can talk about the kickers as a whole if you want. Yeah. Any shot the Chargers bring in a fourth kicker to compete, or do you think they actually feel comfortable with these three? Has Coach Swinton or Staley mentioned that at all, or they still feel cautiously optimistic about one of these guys actually seizing the job?
I don't see a fourth kicker just yet because, we haven't gone to a preseason game, say, against the Rams on Saturday, and all three kickers are missing field goals just as badly as they did at the scrimmage. Then you could maybe consider, all right, we got to look elsewhere. But I don't know if they'll ever get to that point because I think Darius Swinton really did a lot of scouting on Tristan Vizcaino, Alex Kessman. So if it doesn't work with Badgley, he's going to bank on his scouting that these two guys, from what he saw with Kessman at Pittsburgh in college, and what he saw from Vizcaino with the Niners, that those guys would pan out. But you could tell that I know Badgley was inherited by his coaching staff, but you could tell they're giving Badgley a fair shake to win the job. He's struggling. He's missing a lot of field goals right now. It might be because of lack of confidence, but I think so far, it's too early to tell. I don't know what's going to happen. I think Tristan Vizcaino is going to win the job eventually, but right now it's kind of an even playing field. But who knows? Michael Badgley could win it back by making a bunch of field goals, being accurate. He has the most experience. He's been in pressure situations, so he might be really accurate come preseason and win that job back. But I think right now it's pretty even.
Yeah, I agree. And I like hearing you say that Vizcaino. We made it the whole show until my daughter woke up. So that's a good way to do it.
I was kind of hoping she'll walk in for like a viral moment through the door, like just shoving
she's
it in.
Right here hiding. I don't know what she's doing. Just woke up from a nap, but got through it. So
I was going to say it was a ghost. So I was going to freak out. So I'm glad it's a baby.
I saw your face when the door just creaked open. I was like, I'm impressed that you kept your composure. You
I'm going to keep going. But it was a little awkward. But then I figured it's got to be the baby.
Yeah, there you go. So, but no, I agree with you. I think Vizcaino overall is who I think has looked, I guess, better. And I do think he's the guy I'm looking forward to win the job. But we'll see. I mean, we got 3 preseason games. Let's see how it goes. I'm curious how they'll split the reps. Yeah. Let me ask you that. Has he said anything if they'll do like a kicker gets each game, if they're going to have a quarter, or we'll just they're keeping that quiet and we'll see what happens?
They haven't really said that. I think we tried asking today, what's going to be like the plan. But they're keeping it quiet. They don't want to give it away too much. But I expect all 3 kickers to get a chance come the Saturday's game preseason. So I asked Brandon Staley last week. Badgley went first in the scrimmage. I'm like, because he went first, does that mean he's the leader in the race right now? He's like, no, there's nothing to do with that. We're gonna rotate these guys. There's your beautiful daughter, just in time. Maybe she'll win the Chargers kicking job.
There you go.
But they're gonna have rotation there to kind of answer your question.
Gotcha. So, well, yeah, fun to see. I will be there Saturday, Gilbert. So hopefully can link up with you and say what up. But thanks so much for taking the time. Appreciate it. Gilbert Manzano of the OC Register, LA Daily News, and the great co-host of Compas on the Beat. Appreciate you, brother. Thanks for taking the time, and look forward to see you back at training camp and at the game on Saturday.
Thank you. This was fun. Always good to talk to you, Ryan. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks, brother.